What's up and welcome into a fresh Locked On Bulls. I'm Matt Peck. That's Big Dave. Up ahead on today's show, some bad news last Friday. The Bulls announced that second-year power forward Patrick Williams suffered a severe ankle sprain during some basketball activities, volunteer activities. What does that mean? Also, a quick update on Coby White's injury status as we begin training camp tomorrow. And on the back end of the show, we will touch on the latest addition to the Bulls training camp roster, a standout all Big Ten player by the name of Daniel Oturu. That's all next on Locked On Bulls. Let's go.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here are your hosts, Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson.
What's up and welcome into Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Matt Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. You can follow my co-host Big Dave at BAWL Sports. You can follow us at Locked On Bulls. Shoot us an email, lockedonbulls@gmail.com. And that text to voicemail line is always there for you, Bulls fans, at 331-979-1369. So as I said in the intro, today's show, we're talking the Patrick Williams ankle injury. Bummer news there as we begin training camp this week. Quick update on Coby White, and then we will get to the latest addition to this Bulls training camp roster, Daniel Oturu. First, though, Dave, how are you on this brutal Bears Monday? Are you doing okay? We watched the game together yesterday, and I still haven't shaken it off. What about you?
You know, I took a nice shower, moisturized, got myself feeling right, feeling good. And I still sat down and I still feel like I did yesterday. I feel terrible. I feel bad for Justin Fields. I feel bad for Bears fans everywhere that we have to put up with this trash. The new guard packs is really what I call them. I'm mad we got to put up with this, man. I am.
That's not a pretty thought. But if you, like myself and like my friend Dave here, are also a diehard Bears fan, in addition to being a diehard Bulls fan, go check out Locked On Bears with our guy Lauren Cox, who does a great job with that podcast. He's got a great episode up already this morning, breaking down what exactly went wrong in that Bears loss to the Browns yesterday. So
have me on. I want to come on the show. Please have me on. Let me yell. Please.
I think Big Dave still needs to vent a little bit more.
Oh God. Oh Lord. Start it, man. Let's go.
It's not as ugly as that Bears-Browns game yesterday, but bad news hit the Bulls on Friday, or the Bulls announced it to us on Friday, that Patrick Williams suffered a, quote, severe left ankle sprain. This occurred on a optional individual workout on September 15th. He will undergo daily treatment until his return. And this is from a report from our guy, Rob Schaefer. The precise date of that return remains to be seen. A return to the shortest possible end of the team's stated timeline, 4 weeks, retroactive to the injury date, would see Williams back on October 13th, 7 days shy of the Bulls' regular season opener, October 20th. Returning on the latter end, 6 weeks, could see him back on October 27th, at which time the Bulls will have played their first 4 regular season games. Lots to break down here, Dave, as far as how this might affect Billy Donovan's lineup. What is your immediate thought on Patrick Williams and this ankle? Are you devastated, or are you thinking not great, but something we can get through?
I wouldn't say devastated. I was like, damn it. Really? Really?
Now?
After all of that, now we going through this again? And then I had to pull myself back, especially when I saw, it was just the word severe that I think threw everybody for a loop. When you saw the word severe ankle sprain. But I had to pull myself back when I saw it was an ankle sprain. When I knew that he was at the Chicago Sky game yesterday, and nobody noticed anything was different or wrong with him.
Right. And it didn't appear that he was wearing a boot or a cast of any kind. No crutches.
Exactly. Like, there's video of him out there now golfing, you know what I'm saying, at the golf range and things like that. So, yeah, that gave me, credence to just relax a little bit. And also, I was full going into panic mode because when I heard 4 to 6 weeks, I immediately was like, oh my God, this is going to be like 10 games. It's going to be out of here. Like, man, what are we going to do? And then they said, no, it started last week. And that's why they gave the 4 to 6 week assessment starting from last week. So like you just said, if it's the 4 weeks, he'll be back before the season begins. If it's the 6 weeks, he'll miss about 4 games. Then I calmed down. I was like, okay, that's not too bad. You know what I mean? And the fact that he's still upright and he's still walking, I won't have to see him on the scooter in media day or anything like that. That made me a little more not worried about this.
RIP campaign. Yeah, look, I had the same reaction you did, which was like, I saw that tweet come across my Twitter alerts, and I was like, really? Like, really? We're so excited for training camp and a fresh bull season with all these new pieces. We're excited to see what Patrick Williams can do in year 2. A expected starter along with this new look team with Vooch, DeRozan, Zach, Lonzo, and especially talking about the concern of what this Bulls team will look like on the defensive end, at least while they're sorting things out to begin the season with all these new pieces. I was feeling okay knowing that, like, okay, Patrick Williams is out there and he's going to be playing defense and he's going to be guarding our opponent's best player every night, pretty much just like he did as a rookie. And now the missed time of training camp and running 5-on-5 in training camp and seeing what exactly is going to be the best way for Patrick Williams to optimize his defensive specialties in a starting 5 that is not super talented on the defensive end. And now missing the entirety of training camp because, again, remember, Patrick Williams was drafted in the year of COVID when the NBA was shut down. He didn't get Summer League as a rookie. He didn't get a normal full-length training camp, and now in year 2, he's pretty much going to miss the entirety of training camp. Just gone. Yeah. So that is concerning to me. And then, of course, Big Dave, the question shifts to assuming, hopefully, knock on wood, 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be back, maybe even before the season, but if not, shortly thereafter. What do you do building chemistry in training camp with a starting 5 that now does not include Patrick Williams? Where does Billy Donovan go? Does he maybe shift DeRozan to the 4? Because he played a lot of 4 with the Spurs. Almost 70% of his minutes with the Spurs, he played at the 4. Do you maybe try and get some more defensive talent back into that starting 5 and slide Troyer into the 3? Do you go with Caruso? Where do you think Billy Donovan should go when it comes to getting a non-Patrick Williams cohesive unit starting 5 through training camp?
Now, I kind of saw that side of it a little more positively. When I looked at it, I looked at the fact that the Bulls do have options. And we talked about their wing depth, and we talked about how many players they have at that. These between 6, nobody's under 6'4" on this team, pretty much. So they have a lot of depth at that wing position and guys that can cheat at the 4, even if they're not just solid 4s. I'm talking about guys like Alizé and Stanley Johnson who are like, they can play the 4. You can cheat with guys like you said about Troy Brown Jr. or like you said, run a 3-guard lineup, which Billy Donovan does like to run. You can run those 3-guard lineups with Alex Caruso out there too, putting a little more defense out there as well. Because I think your point you made about the starting 5 and their defense is really accurate because although Lonzo Ball, who I think is their second best defender in that starting 5, Patrick Williams is your best defender because he can literally defend all 5. So that's the difference. Like Zoe, I can trust at the 1 and 2. Zach, who I think is the third best defender, I trust guarding 2s. I don't know about 3s. If teams are playing smaller 3 or something like that, maybe. But I like him just guarding the 2. Maybe he's improved on that. I don't know. We saw him guarding point guards in Team USA. Maybe it's improved on that and stuff like that. But I know for sure Patrick Williams can guard all 5 of those positions, so that's where it will hurt. Moving DeRozan to the 4 or sliding him over doesn't bother me at all. And this, guys, is the reason why we was like, you need to go get DeMar DeRozan. It's for days and things like this. Like, if Patrick Williams goes down and you don't have DeMar DeRozan, this is a major setback, okay? But knowing that you have another star there on your team, and you're like, okay, guess what? You can kind of lean on you, Mr. DeMar DeRozan. You can go ahead and get your points. Things will be a little more freed up for you on the offensive end. But you were talking about defensively, but I think those 2 names you threw out are the 2 names I had in my head, the Troy Brown Jr. and the Alex Caruso. And I think more so Troy Brown Jr. Will get that shot, but I can see Alex Caruso getting in there with that 3-guard lineup because that makes sense also.
Yeah, and maybe Donovan does something where it's a quicker pull for one of his starting five,
Right.
and he gets Caruso in, at the 6 or 7 minute mark of the first quarter or something like that. I would guess my main concern is if you do go with all right, you're sliding in Troy Brown Jr. or Caruso or Derek Jones Jr., another name that might be involved in this Billy Donovan decision while we wait for Pat Williams to come back. If you slide DeRozan to the 4, then the DeRozan Vooch front court defense, the interior defense of this team is going to be giving me all kinds of panic attacks on a nightly basis until Williams is back.
Sure. And you're right. But I think actually, Matt, now that you just said that name, and I forgot I've been talking about him when this happened, that he would be the guy. But yeah, Derek Jones Jr., that's him. That's the guy that I talked about, guys you could cheat with at the 4 and things like that. He's going to offer you some of that defense because of the athleticism and because of the length that he has. And what he can bring you offensively as far as, his athletic ability. I think he fits in nicely at that 4 position because I kind of know what I'm going to get. Everything else feels, even though this is experimental, everything else feels really experimental. You know what I mean by that? Like putting Derek Jones Jr. there doesn't feel as, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like I kind of have a sense of, okay, I kind of got an idea what he might give me. And instead of Troy Brown Jr., like, I don't know. Like, what are you going to be with that? I don't know. And this ain't a shot at Troy or Alex Caruso at all. It's just, I feel like I know what I'm going to get when Derek Jones Jr. is in there because you can still kind of run the same way offensively because we looked at Patrick Williams as what, like that 4th option? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we slide him to a 5th option now? Like, okay, like that's all right. You know what I mean? That's not a big, change right there. And I just like Derek Jones Jr. and he's played that. We saw him in Portland playing in that position as well, especially when he was on the floor with guys like Melo and things like that. So I like Derek Jones Jr. in that position. I think you could cheat with him in that position, but yeah, Billy Donovan is going to be creative. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what we get from the first reports of training camp and what things look like as far as who Billy's running with the 1s and who's with the 2s. We'll keep everybody updated on that as we learn anything. I'm sure we'll hear about Patrick Williams and their thoughts on his injury when media day happens in just a matter of hours. We're recording this a little before noon Monday, 2 p.m. media day. All right, so speaking of Patrick Williams' injury, the Bulls did add to their front court depth, at least for training camp roster. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also got to touch on a Coby White injury update. First, though, it's fantasy basketball time, Big Dave. Everybody's 3 weeks into fantasy football. Fantasy basketball is right around the corner. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Sleeper app Game Picks. In 2018, the fantasy sports experts at Sleeper realized that fantasy basketball was broken, just like the Bears offense. Games were being won and lost based on whose players had more scheduled games that week. Made no sense, required very little strategy. So in 2020, Sleeper released a brand new way of playing fantasy basketball. It's called Game Pick, and it's only available on that Sleeper app. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game per week for each of their starters to count towards the team's total score, ensuring an even number of games played between opponents. The days of losing because your opponent's players simply had more games on their schedule that week than yours are over. The days of mindless daily busy work, over. The days of giving up halfway through the season because of that dumb busy work, also over. In Game Picks, you pick one game per week for each of your players based on things like player matchups, home versus away, opponents' defensive rankings, pace of play, and more. All that adds up to more strategy, less busy work. Whether you prefer redraft leagues, keeper leagues, dynasty, Game Picks has you covered. Sleeper cracked the fantasy basketball code. If you play fantasy football, if you prefer building out a weekly strategy versus daily lineups, you're going to love Game Picks. Download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed.
Guys, does this sound familiar to you? You're sitting down in your nice comfy chair like I am right now. You got your snacks right there. You ready to chill out. You ready to sit back and watch the game. And then you say, oh, man, but, I kind of want to look at my show, too, at the same time. Oh, man, also, I might want to go ahead and look at some highlights while I'm looking at that as well because I went to Bet Online, so I want to, check out and see how I'm doing out here. Only got one remote. Oh, let me get this other remote. Oh, let me get this other remote. Oh, let me call up my friend and ask him his dog's password for the internet and use it like that. Stop. You don't have to do that no more. We got one simple way to get all that entertainment that you love without that hassle, and it is a great way to get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream. It brings together your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, your favorite movies, and your favorite shows all in one place. No more of that jungling remotes. No need to buy another device ever again. And the best part about all of this, guys, it's no annual contract, okay? So get rid of that clutter. Get rid of that confusion. Get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more about DirecTV at DirecTV.com. That's DirecTV.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
All right, moving along. In addition to the Patrick Williams sprained ankle, the Bulls released an update on his young teammate, Coby White. So Bulls' previous 2 first-round picks are now both entering training camp with injuries, which is a bummer. But there was a little bit of good news when it comes to Coby White. Bulls said that he is on track after getting shoulder surgery to repair an injury he suffered back in July. Expected to make a full return in November, participate in non-contact portions of training camp. A mid-November return for Coby would mark 5 months since the injury, and it was a 4 to 6 month timeline when they first revealed that he suffered this injury. So it sounds like we could get Coby back mid-November when the Bulls are, only 15 or 20 games into their season. That's encouraging. But like Patrick Williams, you wonder what Coby White might be missing out on as far as participating in the actual scrimmaging elements of training camp, the building of team chemistry, and especially if Coby White is expected to be a key part offensively of a second unit for the Bulls this season, how he will, reintegrate himself into Billy Donovan's rotation while missing out on the entirety of training camp. So it's sort of a little good news, bad news, because you're like, okay, he's on track to come back in mid-November, but like I was so frustrated with the Patrick Williams injury news that I momentarily forgot. I was like, oh right, crap, Coby's hurt too. The 2 young guys who are like the young generation of this sort of like vets, Zach LaVine in the middle in his prime, and then the young guys, our 2 key young guys are coming into training camp hurt, and that really stinks, Dave.
No, it really stinks. And like you said, Matt, like they're really key. Like the one young guy is your starting 4, like locked in, no doubt. And your other guy is your 6th man, no doubt, locked in. That's who he is. I could sit here and say it's not gonna hurt, it'll be all right and everything cool. But no, it'll hurt because it's gonna take some time and some time getting used to it, as Matt so accurately put it. It's gonna take some time getting used to, the pace of play and how they're, getting together and the chemistry and things like that. I will say the one positive thing about it is, well, 2 actually. One, he's coming off the bench, and when you're coming off the bench, it's a little different, as we know. But 2, the role that he's going to have is key, because they're not asking him to do what he did the previous year, which is run the point guard, which is he's not going to be scheming as much. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be running the plays and stuff like that. He's going to be more of a Vinnie Johnson kind of style. Get in, get that ball, you know what I'm saying? Get that ball into the bucket will be your main priority. If there's anything Coby White can do, he can put the ball into the bucket and at a very high clip. So those 2 things give me some kind of positivity. But to act like it won't hurt and to act like it won't be effective, it definitely will. Because even though he's not going to be asked to do those kind of schemes, he's still going to have to learn the plays, because there's still going to be schemes that he's going to have to learn. You still have to learn what guys need to be. You still have who's going to be your man on the defensive end, the terminology. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it is. It's you can equate it to like learning a song or something like that, Matt. You can, unless you're in the studio with the guys making the song, it's not going to be as cool for a while. You know what I mean? Like, you still got to learn the nuances of how everybody, when they come in on the song, when to drop the beat out, when to do certain things. You still got to be in the studio gathered together. If you just mailed your verse in when it's time to do the song, you might not feel as comfortable because there's some knowledge that you might be missing when you perform that joint on stage. You know what I'm saying? You still rock it, but it's going to take a couple times of you rocking it to know, oh, okay, so this is where you like it. This is where you have to be. So it's the same kind of way, you know what I'm saying, in this. And Coby's going to be okay. He's going to be all right. And like Matt just said, that is really good news that he is on track, and to still see him in there smiling, you know, with the new haircut, still looking like he's in shape, you know what I'm saying, still looking like he's ready to go. So, yeah, it's going to suck for a second, though.
And I guess, you know, the other positive you can take away from Coby missing, you know, a significant chunk at the beginning of the season, it is a left shoulder injury. So it's not his shooting arm. It's, you know, which like that would be a greater concern to me is if you're rehabbing a surgically repaired shoulder in your shooting arm, would that mess up your shot mechanics in a way that like, okay, yeah, Coby comes back after missing some significant time to begin the season and then has to get his shot back and like spends his first month or two ice cold when we know that the most deadly element to his game is a off-ball shooting threat. You hope that he will be able to come back in and find that shooting stroke sooner rather than later. And the fact that it's a non-shooting shoulder, there's a tough one, is I think I guess a positive to look at.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, again, it's interesting to say we've got our first Bulls preseason game October 5th, eight days from now, Dave. Woo! 8 days from now, we've got Bulls preseason basketball. Let's all remember as we watch preseason basketball, one, yeah, it's preseason, calm down, and two of the biggest pieces of Donovan's rotation, one of his starters, and maybe when healthy, the first guy off his bench or second guy off his bench are not going to be there. So, you know, everybody just cross your fingers and hope that both of these, Patrick and Coby, rehabs go well, continue to stay on track. And, you know, we'll get them in when we get them in. But it's definitely a damper on the excitement of Media Day today and training camp starting tomorrow. But there is something interesting and exciting. Speaking of training camp beginning, we've got yet another player to talk about that the Bulls front office added just yesterday, I believe, Dave. Before we do that, though, do you want to tell our listeners about the delicious protein bars that taste like candy bars?
Oh, these are Matt Peck approved. He loves a Built Bar, and you will too. Why? Because they're good for you, because Matt likes to drink a V8 every once in a while because it's good for him. But
no
Built
kale
Bar,
in these Built Bars. No kale.
No kale in the Built Bar. So no worm issues you have to worry about in a Built Bar, okay? It's going to be delicious flavors, and it's going to be healthy. That's what you're going to get. And Matt's run down the plethora of flavors they have: the double chocolate, the mint brownie, the cherry barcia, the coconut, the orange, the cookies and cream, the German chocolate, so on, so on, and so on. You know what your favorite flavor is? Do you know what your favorite flavor is? Because I know what my favorite flavor is. So I need you to know what yours is too, man. Send it in. I actually like to know. Yeah, do that. Send that in the Built Bar. I like to know your favorite flavor. 17 to 18 grams of protein. Calories ranging from 130 to 180. 4 to 5 grams of sugar. And only 4 or 5 grams of net carbs. So when you can see somebody sitting around and you're like, what are you doing? Eating snacks all day? No, you're taking care of yourself. How dare they talk to you like that? You're taking care of yourself because you're eating some delicious Built Bars. Now, you order today, and guess what? You can get the grasshopper cookie. Just for ordering today, y'all. You can get that. Or you get the raspberry. You know what? It's your choice. It's your world. Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. I'm going to say they're in shape. That's just my opinion. And they fuck with Built Bar. They rock with Built Bar, ladies and gentlemen. So go to BuiltBar.com, use that promo code LOCK15, and get 15% off your order at Built.com. Yo! I want some Built Bars now.
Yummy Built Bars. All right, Dave, last thing on the agenda for this episode. Yesterday, our old friend Malika Andrews, formerly of the Chicago Tribune, now kicking butt over at ESPN. Shout out to her. She's getting the new ESPN Daily NBA Talk Show, replacing Rachel Nichols. So congrats to Malika. She reported this first of anyone yesterday. The Bulls rounding out their training camp roster by picking up Daniel Oturu, who had been waived by Memphis as a part of that trade, the Clippers-Memphis trade, where Bledsoe goes to the Clippers. I think Rondo was in that Memphis deal, whatever else. that he gets waived by Memphis. He's available. The Bulls add him to their training camp roster, and that is the official list. He is the last person to enter training camp. A little bit of background on Daniel Oturu here, Dave. Second-round draft pick in 2020 from the Minnesota Timberwolves, who probably watched him closely because he was an all-Big Ten player at Minnesota in his collegiate career. Only played 30 games, no starts for the Clippers last season, and only averaged 5.5 minutes per game. So not a ton of run, but a guy who I think, based on what we saw in limited time with the Clippers last season and his resume, his body of work at Minnesota in college, is a nice little flyer for the Bulls, especially when you consider the Patrick Williams ankle injury that we just learned about. Bulls adding some front court depth and a little bit of potential insurance for Patrick Williams and that front court that is a little bit short right now. The Bulls technically do have a roster spot available because of some of the other guys they added at the back end of the summer are on non-guaranteed contracts. So maybe Daniel Oturu gets in there and earns himself the final spot. I would be surprised. I think, Alize Johnson is still the favorite to take that final spot. Maybe Oturu gets a two-way contract. We'll see. But a guy who's 6'8" with a wingspan of 7'2", who can play certainly power forward, but also play some spot minutes at center. Some might even say the center is his more natural position despite being 6'8". But the guy's got some bounce. The guy blocks shots like crazy, averaged 2.5 blocks per game his final season in Minnesota. And in that final season in Minnesota, also 20 points and 11 boards per game. This guy is a nice little pickup off the waiver wire for the Bulls who need another body in the front court in training camp.
Yeah, and he's I love a goon, Matt. He strikes me as that. And he's a guy who plays defense. If you watched him, and it's not like I watched him during the season a lot, but I saw him in the summer league. But if you watched him in the summer league, he was having some awesome games defensively. Like, I was really impressed just at how he moved his feet. I was really looking at that. And because for a guy that's 6'8" and like 240, like what Matt said, a 7'2" wingspan, to be able to move his feet like he did against those 4s and those 5s, and then get up to block your shot because he has those real long arms. I was honestly impressed with that. So I'm glad he's getting a shot. This is what preseason is for. You know what I'm saying? This is what it's for, guys, to see if this guy is not only worthy of being on your team, but even worthy, Matt, of like putting on the Windy City Bulls. If they need to bolster that up a little bit like that, give him that chance right there as well. So I'm going to be watching him. It's going to be interesting seeing him because, like you said, with the Patrick Williams injury, things kind of opened up, at that position. And so I think all those wings are going to really be playing for time. You know what I mean? Playing for time and a place on this team. So I'm excited to watch that competition in the preseason, and adding Daniel to this just, puts more logs on the fire as far as that competition is concerned.
Yeah. Like, again, just it's a body for training camp, but a guy who, when you look at his measurements and when you look at what he did first in college and then in his spot minutes for the Clippers, is a solid flyer. I know Bulls fans maybe had eyes elsewhere as far as what's left on the scrap heap of, guys who hadn't been signed, or guys who got waived or cut or whatever. Rondé Hollis Jefferson is a name that we kept hearing and kept hearing and kept hearing. Bulls fans interested in potentially him as a combo who could certainly play some minutes at the 4. Yeah. I just saw a tweet. I can't remember if it was this morning or last night. He just signed a contract for some team in Turkey. So it's like,
okay. All right. Well, all right.
if no NBA team out there was like, yeah, let me get some Rondé Hollis Jefferson, then maybe something's going on, and maybe there's a reason he's going to play in Turkey this season instead of the NBA. But I don't think necessarily that the Bulls will be so concerned with front court depth in the absence of Patrick Williams that it will give him Oturu a greater likelihood of earning a roster spot. Because again, if all goes according to plan and nothing goes wrong and there are no backtracks, knock on wood, Patrick Williams might be ready to go before they play a single regular season game. Like, correct. Yes, he will miss training camp, but he did get some run in summer league, and he started 69 of 72 games or whatever it was last season. So yes, he might be a step behind in training camp, but I still think that when Williams is ready, that is a plug and play. That's your starting four.
No question.
So, and unless there is something, awful that happens between now and preseason ending and the regular season starting, I don't see Oturu making this final roster, but I do hope we see him in some preseason games because, like you, I liked what I saw from him in limited spurts with the Clippers, and I want to see what he can do in a Bulls jersey in preseason.
Yeah, like I said, like he's going to be playing for most important time in the Windy City Bulls. Like that's really what I see, how I kind of see it as playing for time there. If it's worth getting on the team, because obviously he's not linked to a team right now, which is why he's here with us in training camp. So that's why I'm really interested just to watch it, Matt, because guys know that Patrick Williams is hurt. So guys are going to be playing for something. You know what I mean? Like they really want to get in there and they want to show, yo, I should be a guy that gets time. Yo, maybe you should start me this, these few games. He's going to be out a few games. Maybe you should give me a look. Yo, I deserve to be on this team. It's really going to be that. And I can't wait to see it, honestly. I really want to see Stanley. I really want to see Alizé. And I want to see him. I want to see the center. I forget his name right now. Bradley. I want to see Bradley. I want to see all these guys in there fighting for position. You know what I'm saying? To see if they should have a spot on this team or if they should have a spot with the Windy City Bulls, man. Because honestly, I think this is a good time and a good team to be on. I think guys will show that as far as how they play. If this is the team they really want to be for, because personally I think it is, because of the things we've heard and the things we've seen, and what players coach of Billy Donovan is. So I'm just excited to see that, Matt, at that position, at 4 and at 5, because they do need depth at that position. They need depth at that. So yeah, it's a training camp guy. I'm just excited that he's getting an opportunity. Excited to see what he does on the defensive end. Hopefully he can score a little bit. The game I saw, man, I think he had like 12 points. I can't remember how many rebounds, but he had like 4 or 5 blocks. I saw him in the summer league game that I saw. So I know what he can do defensively and putbacks and things like that. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see. And I hope he makes like the Windy City roster. I hope worst case scenario, he makes that Windy City roster.
Yeah, not only I mentioned when we began our conversation about Oturu that he was all Big Ten in his second season with Minnesota. Also, all Big Ten, all defensive team. So like
there it is.
Dude plays defense, which is nice.
That's what he do.
So the one name that you didn't mention that I think, we were excited about it. We saw it in summer league, and now it's just been kind of like there's so many other things going on in offseason that he's been kind of in the background a little bit. When it comes to competition for minutes in the front court, especially in the absence of Patrick Williams in training camp, and then probably the absence of Patrick Williams in preseason games, Marko Simonovic, where does he fit into this? Is he better as a second-round pick who just came over after playing professionally overseas? Is he better than a guy like Oturu? Is he better than Alizé Johnson? I mean, probably not, but like compared to Summer League, I want to also see Marko get some significant run in a handful of these preseason games to see, okay, this is Summer League step 1, preseason step 2. Can he actually carve out a role for himself in regular season games, step 3? Because right now it's hard to know where Marko is in that scale of second round draft and stash who came over after playing professionally overseas, looked pretty good overseas, but it's a different league. You worry about his shot translating, all these things, but we know how he ran the floor in those summer league games. We liked that. We like how aggressive he is. Where is he in the tier of Billy Donovan saying, who can I use in the front court, especially while Patrick Williams is on the shelf?
Yeah, I think the reason I didn't bring him up was because I was talking more about the 4s and things like that. And I see him as a 5. I've never looked at him as a 4. Right. But everything you said is legitimate and correct. Because nothing is set in stone. You know what I'm saying? As far as him, like he might be in with the Windy City Bulls too. That is a possibility. Because I think it goes Vooch and then it goes Bradley. So will he be on that bench? Will he be fighting? He'll be fighting now. Daniel, now that he's in camp, he'll be fighting him for that. Alizé, he'll be looking at him for that. So guys aren't just gonna step to the side. You know what I'm saying, for you, because you're a rookie and you ain't here, and you came in from overseas with something on you and all that. They're not gonna step to the side. No, they're gonna try to make this team too. So you're right. Now that you've said that, I am interested to see it. Like, because I wasn't even thinking about watching him. But yeah, I'm interested to see it now, Matt, because that's going to be really interesting, man. Will he move up? Can he play good enough to move up and say, you know what, maybe he should get a little more time? Will he be getting those spot minutes? You know what I'm saying? As we see Billy Donovan likes to do, you know, with certain guys and things like that. Will he be a guy like that? Or will he just be a guy on your bench soaking in stuff, learning? Or will he be down a two-way player? Like, who knows? There's a lot of things, you know what I'm saying, to be answered as far as Marco is concerned, man. And excuse me, it's going to start in 8 days. It's going to start in 8 days. All those answers.
Days. 8 days we get Bulls preseason basketball.
Woo.
But, you know, that's the other thing. Before we hopped on and we were recording, I was listening to Matt Nagy's comments, meeting the media at House Hall Monday, which, by the way, was 45 minutes late. I thought for a second that maybe he hopped on a train and you know, got out of Dodge because of the amount of heat he was about to take. But that's the other exciting part about what comes next. Training camp. So we're recording this, you know, around noonish on Monday. Media day, 2 p.m. Central Time. So we will record another episode either out tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, reacting to everything we hear at Media Day. But unlike getting sick of listening to Matt Nagy or listening to Ryan Pace when he ever actually comes out of hiding, and the way that we were sick of listening to John Paxson, and certainly sick of listening to anything that you know who had to say. I am very much looking forward. Like, yes, okay, they have to address some bummer news, which is Patrick Williams and Coby White are both on the shelf nursing injuries when training camp starts. But there's still going to be, I think, in that room, a significant amount of optimism coming from the people asking the questions and from the people answering them because of all of the work they put into this offseason and overhauling the roster the way they did.
And also expectations. Like, that's going to be huge. Like, the media has expectations, and they will ask them about those expectations as well. You know those guys going to be there. You know Joe Cowley going to be in there with that. You know what I'm saying? You know it. You know he's going to be in there with them questions. Like, okay, let's stop the wedding. Let's stop the party. You know what I'm saying? Let's deal with the cleanup.
He's asking about Zach LaVine's contract right out of the gate. Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. You know it's coming, man. Like, but I want to hear answers to all these things, man. But it's just going to be really joyous and really happy, just at least for me, just to see this new team in their uniforms, knowing that it makes it real. I talked about this last time, Matt. Now it becomes real. Today makes it real, and watching them play in preseason will make it just even realer. So yeah, this is a big, huge, important day, man, because this is a new start, Bulls fan. This is a brand new start of a team that we have expectations for to be up to take us to the playoffs, man, to give us some exciting basketball this season that Matt and I will be joining you for, man. We can't wait. We can't wait to talk to y'all every day, baby, after this. It's going to be fun, man.
Got
I can't
flowers,
wait.
Man. It becomes official. It becomes real. We're going to see DeMar DeRozan in a Bulls jersey. We're going to see Lonzo Ball in a Bulls jersey. We're going to see, hopefully, Alex Caruso in a Bulls jersey and a red or white headband. It's happening.
I didn't even think of that. My brain. What if he got 3 options because he got a black one on too. He got 3 options, man.
I don't know. That might be a bridge too far for old Jerry. I don't know if we can get away with a black headband.
Now, hold on, guys. Hold on now.
Somebody give Joakim a comb, for crying out loud.
He's too busy worried about the White Sox winning, man. He's not concerned about any of this.
That happened over the weekend too. Congratulations to your White Sox, Big.
Yes. Shout out to my White Sox. Where's my hat? Shout out to my White Sox, baby. First of many, baby. First of many. Yeah.
You know, we plugged Locked On Bears at the beginning of the show. We'll end the show with a plug for Locked On White Sox with Chris Tannehill and Herb Lawrence. Great guys who do great work on that White Sox podcast. If you're a White Sox fan, go check out Locked On White Sox. Big Dave, I'll talk to you soon. Media Day is in a couple of hours. We will react to that on our next episode, but wanted to get out in front of the Patrick Williams news to start out the week. So anything on your mind, Bulls related, Patrick Williams injury related, Media Day related, hit us up on that text to voicemail line 331-979-1369. Shoot us an email, lockedupbulls@gmail.com. And of course, always follow us on Twitter. I am at Bulls_Peck. Dave is at BAWL Sports. We are at Locked On Bulls. Thanks for sponsoring the show today. Sleeper app, DirecTV Stream, and those delicious Built Bars. Thanks to y'all for listening. Until next time, from my partner Big Dave, Matt Peck saying, see red, be good. Peace out.
Fire them both.